Bills. Now, everybody knows about the controversy with benching Tyrod Taylor and then bringing in Peterman, who was a joke, threw 5 interceptions in the first half, and then they bring back Tyrod Taylor after the experiment next week, and he gets a win on the road for the Bills. So the Bills at home, they're 7.5 underdog against the Patriots. And the Bills I always pay the Patriots pretty good every year. So what do you think about this game? Of course, both teams are used to playing in the cold, so it's going to be a little nippy out there, but it's going to be a fairly clear sky. So what do you think about this game?
I mean, you're right. Somehow the Bills over the years have been able to upset the Patriots. Are they going to be able to do it today? I think that mountain might be a little bit too steep to climb. I mean, the Patriots were pretty much operating on all cylinders. I like the Bills with the points.
Okay, you like the Bills with the points. Bills have a top 5. Bills have a top 5 defense.
Yeah.
You know, they have a really one thing Tyrod Taylor doesn't do. He doesn't turn the ball over, so it always gives the Bills an opportunity to win. They always stay in the game.
You never know. I mean, I think he's going to go out there trying to prove something today.
Okay, another 12 o'clock game Central Time that we have is interesting, the Chiefs and the Jets. Now, the Chiefs started off 5-2, and they dropped a couple games, and then they won last week to get back on track. The Jets are 4-7. They're at home, though. They usually play a lot better at home. They still have a top 10 defense, and the Jets are underdog by 4 points at home against Kansas City. Who you like in this game?
I like Andy Reid. I think he's going to go in there and win that game. It gets cold in Kansas City too.
Yeah,
so I don't know
it does.
A whole lot of advantage for the Jets and the weather, and I know it's a little bit colder than it typically would be this time of the year up there. My friends back in Pittsburgh were telling me this morning that there's some snow on the ground, so it's going to be a nice cold December matchup. But okay. I think the Chiefs go in there and get back to their old ways and win a game.
The Chiefs going to cover that 4 with their running game. They're not running the ball really well on the right side of their offensive line. They got a couple of injuries, but I like the Chiefs too, also on the road. All right, so we got a couple more games we're going to talk about. I know we're going to hear some noise in the background, but the Panthers at the Saints.
Ooh.
Okay. So the Saints have won 7 out of their last 8. Okay, the Panthers have won 2 in a row, and one of those games was a big game on the road. So the Panthers, they play better on the road than they do at home. They're in the Dome in New Orleans. Who you like in that matchup with Cam Newton and Drew Brees?
Who that?
Take your time, because this is a tough one.
It's nearly a coin flip.
And New Orleans is giving up 5.5.
Yeah, it's scoring 30 plus.
I like Carolina with the points, or I like the Saints straight up.
Okay, straight bet. If you're betting straight, Dan says go with the Saints. If you're taking the points, you're going to take Carolina plus 5.5 on the road. Okay, Cam Newton is playing really well, and both teams post identical records at 8-3. So the Saints at home against a top 5 defense, the Carolina Panthers. All right, and 2 more games that we want to address before we go to commercial break. The Eagles at 10-1, the top of the league, and it looks like they're running through everybody like milk. I haven't seen anybody stop their running game. They like to dink and dunk over the top. Carson Wentz is playing the MVP level, but they're playing at the Seahawks with the 12th man in Seattle. And at 7-4, the Seahawks have won their last 2 nail biters. Basically, it's all Russell Westbrook. They don't have Earl Thomas. They don't have Richard Sherman on the wing to injuries, playing shut down corner on the right side of the field. So who do you like in this game? The Seahawks they're getting 3.5 at home against the Eagles.
Well, here's the good news. There's a lot of great football today, right? And we already talked about a lot of close games. I don't think this is going to be any different. You're right. They're going to the West Coast. They're playing at home. I think the the 12th man's going to make a difference. If I can have the Seahawks in points, I'm going to go that way. But I'm going to take it another step further. I mean, the Seahawks always seem to figure out a way to bring it together at the end of the season. They always peak at the right time. I believe that's what they're beginning to do. Yes, they're a bit short-handed, but I think they're ready to show everybody that they're still at the top of the league. And I love them with the points, but I'm going to take them outright as well.
All right, if you're just tuning in, we're over here at the Up and Smoke facility with owner Dan Schmidt, and he's giving us his spiel, his picks on the Sunday NFL football. And we're going to talk about his team last before we go to break. Yeah, this show is brought to you by Making the World Famous for Life Mobile Barbershop. VC Vincent Castile, celebrity barber, 25 years in the DFW area. And the show is also brought to you by Z-Web Advertising. Z-Web, the obvious choice for all of your video needs. If you're looking to build a website and you're looking for maintenance, you want to visit zweb.com, zerohorn@gmail.com. All right, Dan, last but not least, your Steelers going to play on Monday night. They're going on the road. They're playing against 5-6 Bengals, Cincinnati Bengals. The Pittsburgh is only favored by 4.5. So why do you think that, Dan, if there's such? Because the Pittsburgh has been playing really good lately. They're 9-2. And they're looking unstoppable. It looks like it's going to be them and the Patriots in the AFC Championship game if I was to pick it right now. Okay, so who do you like in this game? I know you like your Steelers, but they're playing on the road in a hostile environment, and they're only favored by 4.5. And I want to know your insights on that, Dan.
I mean, if the Steelers want to do anything this year, they've got to find and win the games that they need to win or should win. And I think in the past they've lost games to teams where they were clearly the favorite. I think this year is going to be a bit different. I mean, it's going to be an all-out brawl. I mean, I personally think the Bengals-Steeler rivalry has taken the place in some regards for the Ravens-Steelers. I mean, the Steelers, I think, are looking forward to going to Cincinnati and beating up on the Bengals. And I know the Bengals are waiting for the Steelers to arrive because they think they're going to beat up on them. So I think it's going to be a very close game. But at the end of the day, I think the Steelers come away with the win.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first on the Out of Bounds Sports Show. Owner Dan Schmidt at the Up and Smoke facility out here in Frisco, Texas. We're going to go to a commercial break, and we're going to come back with Kev Martin. We want to thank you, Dan, for coming on the show today. We want to thank you for hosting us at your facility, guys. Make sure you go and visit one of the 7 locations of Up and Smoke in the DFW area. You can check them out on Facebook. You can look them up if they're in your area. This is the Big Dog J Horn. We're on the Out of Bounds Sports Show. We'll be back in a moment.
I'm out for presidents to represent me. I'm out for every represent me. Dead for old presidents to represent me. Dead for old presidents to represent me. Dead for old presidents to represent me. I'm out for 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 presidents to represent me.
All right, everybody. We're back. Thank you for, if you're just tuning in. This is the Out of Bounds Sports Show with the Big Dog. The show is also brought to you by Power and You. Visit powerandU.com for more information on finding your why. Power and You has professionals that help young individuals get to the next level. Power and You, find your why. All right, so we're going to finish off the show today. We're going to have our last segment with one of our special guests, Kev Martin, with JCK Sports Group. You can check him out, Kev, and give him your stats again before we get this segment started.
Okay, so you can reach me again at JCK_Martin on Instagram. On Twitter, you can reach me at Agent Life, LYFE07. And you can also reach me on Facebook at Kev Martin. And look forward to hearing from you.
All right, so Kev Martin has a powerful firm where he helps guys get to the next level. He has several NBA players, several overseas players. So if you are a talented individual, whether you're a parent or you're an individual that has some tape, you have some great film, you're a player, you're coachable, you want to check out JCK Sports, and see if he can give you an opportunity to get to the next level. All right, Kev, so we're going to talk about the college playoff. Right. This is a hot topic right now. Everybody's talking about it, and probably in another hour, they're going to give us the top 4 teams that are going to be playing for the national championship this year. So we had some marquee games yesterday that we want to talk about. Games that went down to the wire. Oh man, I'm trying to tell you, I was there sitting and watching the games. We had a amazing offensive game from UCF, number 14 UCF, against number 20 Memphis. Ended up being 62-55. They went in OT. Yesterday, Oklahoma beat the skin off of the TCU Horned Frogs 41-17, solidified their spot in the top 4. Georgia, with a bounce-back win against Auburn. You know, they went down to Auburn, they got smashed. Then they went and played in a neutral spot against Auburn yesterday. They beat them 28-7 to win the SEC championship. Fresno State, oh man, I watched that game. It was a great game. Fresno State only lost by 3, and it came down to the last possession of the game, an interception thrown. They lost to Boise State in the Mountain West championship, 17-14. Clemson, who is the number 1 team in the nation, played like the number 1 team in the nation. They beat Miami 38-3 yesterday in a thrashing. Man, it was a thrashing. It was from the first quarter. I watched it, and I really kind of went over into the Wisconsin Ohio State game at halftime because it was like 28-0. You knew it was going to be a beatdown. That was the Dr. Pepper ACC championship game, and the last game of the night. Okay, the last game of the night was Ohio State at Wisconsin. Wisconsin was undefeated at 12-0, and Ohio State came in as the number 8 team in the nation with J.T. Barrett coming off of a knee surgery, an amazing knee surgery on the week before, and they ended up winning that game 27-21. I was a little salty about that game because I had a parlay. We're talking about Dan. I had a parlay going, and I had picked every team correctly in the parlay from six out of 7 teams. And Wisconsin was getting 4.5 at home. Yeah. Okay, you couldn't go away from the 4.5 at home with an undefeated team who's ranked number 4 in the nation, but they didn't cover, and I lost, $5,000. I'm a little irritated about that, Wisconsin. You're supposed to cover that so I can get this money up out of them, but, Ohio State won the game. They beat the undefeated team. So looking at that, let's see. Who do you pick? Who would you pick for your top 4 at this moment right now if you was on the selection committee?
Interesting. That's a very good question because there's a lot of talented teams out there, as you know. But convincingly, you have to put Ohio State back in there. I mean,